For advanced forms, once again, head over to the Forms module, and we're going to start with Web Forms again, the tab. So there are some additional things you can do with forms. So let's just first make a copy of our contact form. As you see, it created a copy down here. I'm going to edit that. I'm going to delete the reCAPTCHA for now. And we're going to say, let's make this a multi-page form. So instead of just one page form to fill out, you'll have multiple pages to fill out. So let's go to Configuration, change the behavior from single to multi-page, and let's start there and hit Save. Now you'll see there's a drop down here. And actually, I'm going to go back to Configuration. Let's change the name from Contact Us Copy to Multi-Page Form Example. So from here, we have the top page, which is still the fields that were already in here by default. But let's go to Manage Pages in the drop-down. So we can add a new page. We'll just call it Page 2. And then let's have another page that we call Page 2 Optional. And we'll get to that later. So if I go back to Web Forms, didn't mean to click off there, and click on our multi-page form example, I now have these additional pages in the dropdown. So let's go to Page 2 first, and let's add a new field for that. By default, there's no fields. So let's say we want a standard field, and maybe we want someone's name or first name. We'll just click Save on that. We'll add another new field. This time, let's say it's custom, and there's options in a drop down. So I'm just going to give it a unique ID, give it a combo box for a drop down. Say please select, and let's give it a drop down of different values. So there's an internal name and a display name. So we'll say there's item 1, and by default, if I just tabbed over and don't change anything, it'll use item 1 that I put for the internal name as the display name. But if I were to overwrite that, I could. So I could call this like number 1 item or something like that to display visually different on the website. So we can say item 2, and then once again, if I don't actually click anything, it just puts that in by default. And we'll say item 3. So I'm going to leave this one blank just so you can see how it carries over. But the other two I gave different names. So I'm going to save that. And then lastly, let's do Page 2 Optional. Let's add another field. We'll just do a standard one for now just to put something in place. We'll say it's a company field, save, and maybe that's it. So now let's set it up so if they choose option item 1 in this dropdown, they will go to that optional page, but anything else, they won't go to that page. So here we can go to Conditions. So we're on Page 2, Conditions. We'll add a new condition, and we'll say if the element is the options dropdown, and it is equal to item 1, the internal name is what you want to put in there, exactly as is. So I have capital I and a space in between 1, just like I typed it before. We're going to say load the optional Page 2, and we'll save that. And also I want to make sure I go back to the multi-page form top 1, so the example, the top form field. And then we want it to always go to Page 2. So we'll just say that here. So it's always true, it'll load Page 2. So now if I go to preview this form and switch over to that window that it opened, I still have it named Contact Us as the title, but this is the form page. So I can go name, email, comments because it's required. I'll hit submit, and now it takes me to page 2. If I choose the number 1 item in here, oh yeah, as you see too, this one just got called item 2 because it was blank. So I can fill in again. So item 1 is going to take me to that optional second page where it's had company. But if I go back and choose item 2 instead and submit, it'll actually submit the form and not go to that additional page. It's actually spinning on me up there. Oh, there it goes. So now it says just straight to the thank you page. So it wasn't that optional page. So if I go back to submissions now, you will see that multi-page form has been filled out. But let's go back to the multi-page form and give it some back buttons also. So you'll want to go to the HTML subtab. We have the submit button text and the previous button text. So here we could say back, and since this is actually the top page and we know it's always going to go to the second page, we can change that to next instead. That way it lets the user know that something else is coming, not just submitting it. So we'll apply that. And then we'll also go to page 2 and give that back button text. Hit save on that. And I just realized actually the top page, if we go to the HTML, it doesn't need a back button because there's only one place to go, and that's forward. So we'll save that. And then the optional page will also have a back. So now if we preview the form, I accidentally previewed it from the second optional page. So actually if you start from the top and click preview, it'll start from the beginning again. So we'll just quickly fill this out. Again, just put in some random comments, click next. So yeah, as you saw this time, it said next instead of submit, and there's a back button as well now. If I choose item 2 or 3 again, submit really will submit the form, as you know, but 1 will actually take you to that additional page. But from here, we always know they're going to submit. But this is how you can create a multi-page form. Lastly, let's talk about the database tab in the Forms module. So from here, you can export CSV of all your submissions. So you can choose which form you want to export from, and then you click download CSV, tab delimited, or anything else. You can also choose to delete all records at once. So you can say everything from the contact us form I want to delete, and maybe it's only the status of pending, maybe it's only a different status, but you can purge by date, so anything prior to that date, it would be deleted. If I go back to submissions real quick too, just to show you the status, you can change the status from pending to archived or processed. So we'll just say this one is processed. Now if I go back to the database, you'll see that there's now the processed option as well. So only the processed form submissions do that too. Some YMCAs use the statuses for the form submissions, but internally you guys can decide how you want to handle that. So some like to say processed, meaning like we reached back out to this person and contacted them, that sort of thing. Others just don't touch the status at all within their content management system, but instead just reply directly from the email notification to the person as needed. And that's Advanced Forms.